Amy Lee Miller, welcome to the Rich Equation podcast.
Thank you. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm really excited. I was just sharing with you, I feel like I have the best job in the world. I can be selfish and get the best people for certain subject matter experts, and I can ask them whatever I want. And so I'm really excited for you to be here today. I think you're going to be providing a lot of value in the space of performance and mindset. And I'm really excited.
Thank you so much. That's an honor. I hope I live up to what you just said there. Thank you.
Yeah, let's get into it. I'm just going to go straight into it because, you were mentioning that you wrote a book, your latest book, and I'd love you to kind of give us some framework about what the book is. But, and I think that it taught what you just shared with me about your book really ties into sort of what I'm experiencing in the ecosystem, in life, in business, myself, my team, and I find this really fun contrast about ownership versus victimhood. And what I mean, and so what I mean by that is we're in a really uncertain time. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of anxiety. At the same time, there's a credible amount of opportunity. There's more information that at our fingertips than ever before. There's more, books and podcasts and YouTube videos and all of it, but it's really easy for people to fall into victimhood. It's so easy to just fall into it. Mm-hmm. That I don't have enough this, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough skills, I blah, blah, blah. And what I'm excited about having you on the podcast and just breaking this subject is that you really talk about this in your content with employees or coaches or business owners, really to learn how to take ownership, right? How to take command of your life, how to get out of your own way, how to reduce your limiting beliefs or change your perspective. So that's kind of the framework of what I want to talk about for a while. And then we can pivot. But I guess start with that. Tell us about sort of what you're seeing, what advice you have, maybe tied into the content of your book, and we'll go from there.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. Really, really good stuff. And I see a lot of that too, victimhood, that is. And I think, actually I was thinking about this earlier today, and I might do a video coming up on it soon, but I think there are people that make choices and there are people that make excuses. And so that would be the victimhood mentality. Yes, it's easy to make an excuse, but the reality is we choose our circumstances. So our choices dictate our lives. So if we're not happy with our situation, whether it's work or personal, we have to make a different choice. We've got to make a different choice, take a different action so that we can have a different result tomorrow. And I think what's behind that victimhood, and we're all guilty of it at some point or another, but I think it is fear. And I think how to overcome fear is learning to distinguish fear from intuition. And I think because our intuition, of course, is strong enough to keep us alive, to keep us safe. It's that inherent instinct that we've had since the beginning of time. And now it kicks into overdrive in situations where we're actually not in danger. And anytime we're making a decision based on fear, maybe the first emotion we get, so maybe we get an idea, something that we want to be doing, maybe a new career idea, maybe we want to write a book, maybe we want to ask somebody out, whatever it is, that first emotion, if it's excitement, that is what you want to lead with. And then if the fear kicks in, and that's human nature, it's okay. The fear question is, what if it doesn't work out? And so then that can stop us before we even get started. But a great way to overcome that is to, I call it observe and choose. This is one of the concepts that I coach on. Observe the emotion. We never want to deny how we're feeling, but then choose our focus. It's so powerful, just the awareness that we can choose what we focus on. So if we're scared that something's not going to work out and that's where our focus is, we can put our best effort forward, but if our focus is on the fear, it's not going to work out. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you find that so let's dig into that. So the second emotion is fear. Maybe it's fear of failing, fear of looking bad, fear of, making mistakes or whatever, fear, right? Mm-hmm. You're not suggesting we ignore that, but I go into that a little bit more because the fear is showing up for a reason. is it to hold us back, or is it to give us a signal of information? Walk us through that a little bit.
I think fear, well, our emotions, yes. So we definitely want to pay attention to our emotions, whether they're good or bad, because if we try to ignore them and push them aside, they're just going to fester. We're going to have this dis-ease within our mind, and that's going to distract us and hold us back from accomplishing what we're trying to focus on. So yeah, we always want to acknowledge our emotions, and yes, they are showing up for a reason. So let's say if we're feeling frustrated, for example, well, the reason we're feeling frustrated is because there is something better meant for us, and it's time for us to grow. So we're uncomfortable. So a lot of us will try to ignore the discomfort because we want to be comfortable, but really that frustration, that discomfort, that fear, whatever it is trying to get our attention for a reason, and the reason is we're ready to grow. So we want to grow, we want to look at it, focus on it. I call it focusing on the frustration, so that we can actually uncover what it is we really want, or what the real problem is, so that the solution can show up. So yeah, the frustration, the fear, the discomfort, it's all there for a reason. We want to lean into it, we want to acknowledge it. But if fear is showing up, if we know that we want something but we're not choosing it, because what if we fail, and then we could get hurt, then other people could see that we failed, and that hurts. Well, it's still time for us to grow. It's time for us to get stronger and push past the fear. And the thing is, the thing about fear is, once you do what scares you, then you're no longer scared. I mean, I was scared a little bit after I finished writing my first book and I was ready to publish it, because okay, my words are out there. I can't take them back now. And I had some fear when I was getting ready to hit publish on my very first motivational video. But you got to push past it and just do it, depending on what the first emotion was. If the first emotion was excitement, that you want to follow the excitement. Otherwise, you're not gonna grow. You're gonna stay right where you are. And if you were happy where you are, then you wouldn't be uncomfortable.
I love that. I love that framework of like, well, if the first emotion is excitement or fun, then the second emotion, you just have to learn to deal with it and get it. And as you do more and more of it, you get used to it. What happens if fear is the first emotion?
If fear is the first emotion, you're in danger. I mean, that's the truth.
Right.
Fear definitely serves a purpose, and I've never heard anybody else put it this way. Maybe somebody else has articulated it this way, but it's something that I think about often is the order. Well, if fear is the first, so intuition is first, because that is the definition of intuition is being able to reason without, or being able to understand something without the need for logic reasoning. And once you start thinking, then you're reasoning. So usually fear is next. But if it's instinct, you got to be careful walking around New York City. I was walking the other day. I'm surprised this is the first time that this has happened. Like, people are on the move. You got to pay attention. And I was going across the street. I looked both ways, and this car was slowing down. It was a cab driver slowing down. It was my turn to cross, so I started to cross, and then he started speeding up, and I literally had to book it so that I did not get hit by a car. I think the sun was in his eyes, because then he turned and he was like, "I'm sorry." Like, I don't know what just happened, but oh my goodness. So fear definitely serves a purpose. It kicked in, but that was my instincts. If your first emotion is fear, it's your instinct. So I bet if the more you pay attention, the more you'll start to notice that and be able to observe the order.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think today we are so analytical, we're so intellectual, we're so in the mind, and we often forget about like what's really showing up, and like, should I do something? Should I not? We over process, we calculate, we come up with all the scenarios. And I know for me, that's a really big issue for me, is that I overthink, I overcalculate, I overanalyze all the different optionalities. And you talk a lot about like attracting your ideal opportunity and just kind of sitting with that and like being your authentic self. Like, so tell us a little bit about that, like, because I think that other people probably are going through the same thing, where we try to use effort to try to make something happen when we maybe should just like lean into becoming, or we should lean into our intuition. Or talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think we can make the right decisions for ourselves and the best decisions for ourselves, and stop the delayed success when we actually learn to listen to ourselves. And when we're feeling frustrated, when we're unhappy, we can't listen to ourselves because we're not present, because we're in our heads trying to work out the problem of what is going on. So example, years ago when I was trying to get my career started, so I waited tables during college for 4 years, and then I just kept waiting tables. I was supporting myself just fine, but then it was another 4 years. So I'd been in the restaurant industry, I think, for 9 years. I was 26 years old. I was so frustrated because I knew that I had more to offer, but I could not find my path. I was going on interviews, I was trying, but nothing was working out. Nothing felt like the right fit. I was also dealing with some anxiety and some depression. So with all of that going on inside my head, I could not get present, and I could not hear myself think. And when we're present, that's when the ideas come in. That's when the opportunities show up. The only thing that happens, I'm not the first one to say this, I know, or the only time anything happens is in the present moment. So if we're not here in the present moment, if we're thinking about what we did that we regret, or if we're worried that this might happen or this might not happen, we miss what is right in front of us. I'm sure it happens to all of us, not just me, but I'll be walking down the street in my head thinking about something, and somebody will say, Amy, and I totally would have missed an opportunity to say hi and connect with somebody that cares about me, because I'm not in the present moment. So a little bit of a tangent there. But anyway, so I was 26 years old. I got to the point where I was so frustrated that I finally gave up just for a moment and stopped trying to find an answer. And I just allowed myself to get really present and focus on the frustration. And I just voiced the problem. I said, okay, the problem is I want a new job, but I don't know what that is. And I just got real present, not trying to find a solution. And then the solution came to me very quickly, and I started my career in sales 3 weeks later. So from that moment of taking the pressure off and just getting present, acknowledging the frustration, I actually asked myself a question. I said, okay, if you could do anything, what would you do? And I said, I would write. And then I went to sleep. And then in the morning, I woke up, and with my clear mind, because I had let go of trying to find a solution, I got an idea. So that's often how our first step will show up, something that we're curious about, or an idea. And that idea may not be it just gets us on our path. So there might be a lot more steps on our journey to accomplish what we ultimately want to accomplish. Like I didn't start writing with my first job, but it was, I got a sales job selling advertising for a local magazine. But because of my writing desire, I got that idea, and then that got my foot in the door with sales. And then I learned a lot through my sales career, and then that transitioned to recruiting, and then I wrote my first book on recruiting. So you never know how we can't know what steps 8, 9, and 10 are going to look like, and that's why we don't want to get too far in our heads. We just need to see the first step and be brave enough to take it. And again, it could be an idea or something that we're curious about that we go research, or just something we feel like doing. So let's say you're at work and you're really frustrated, you're not feeling inspired, and you really just want to go for a walk. Well, when we take the pressure off and just pay attention to what we need and give ourselves maybe a 20-minute or so walk, that's when you're present, and you're likely going to get an idea. So yeah.
Do you basically what you're saying is like we need to learn how to give ourselves permission to take that 20-minute walk to get present. Why is it that we can't do that? Why is it that people struggle with that simple idea of like, I'm not in the best place of mind? I mean, I'll be honest right now. Like this morning I had a situation just like that, and my kids were I was trying to get my kids out the door, and blow up with getting ready and clothes and food and milk and this and that. And I'm sure a lot of people have these types of things, or if it's not that, it's a coworker yelling at you or some situation that just kind of triggers you. And my intuition told me like, you need to just go for a cup of coffee. And I could make coffee at home, but I had to like get out of the house and change the pattern. But like, why is it that we don't often give ourselves this permission that like, we need to do this? We need to just take 15, 20 minutes, stop what we're doing, like stop being a doing and be a being. Why is it that we get stuck there?
Fear.
Fear of what? Fear of like wasting time, or fear of like, oh, that's not going to work? Like
fear that we won't get everything done. I think that's at least one example. When I was recruiting, I recruited for 8 years. So this was a while ago, earlier on in my career, or maybe midway through. But I was so busy that I would work 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day. And I'm a big doer also. I'm a big achiever. I'm like, I'm going to win this job. If somebody's going to win it, why can't it be me? I'm going to go, I'm going to deliver anyway. So a lot of time keeping my head down at the computer. And for me to step away from that, to go for a run at 12 o'clock. Initially, I had some anxiety around that. But the whole reason that I left my medical sales job to do recruiting, I was 1099 working from home, was so that I could have some freedom. I wanted more freedom. Every step in my career has been toward greater freedom, because that's what's important to me. And that's another thing that it's really important for people to focus on and get more aware of, is what drives them, what's important to them. Because then if we can work toward that a little bit each day, we're going to be much happier. But anyway, so I had some fear around, for example, taking a break to go work out in the middle of the day. I felt like that was so selfish. But then I realized, you changed your life and your job so that you could have freedom. So then if I don't take the opportunity to have that freedom, what am I doing? I'm never going to have it. So we got to just take the opportunity to listen to what it is we need, and then be brave enough to take that step if it's different from our normal pattern. And one thing that can help make that shift a little bit easier is the better we feel. Well, the more we invest in ourselves and take care of ourselves, the better we feel. And then of course, the better we have to offer others, So if I'm a busy mom, which I'm not, I don't have kids, but if I did, I know I'm going to be a better mom if I make sure I go get my workout in, if I keep a structure where I'm still taking care of me. Otherwise we can get really worn out and stressed out, and we don't have enough energy to give our best to others. So the best investment we can ever make is in investing in ourselves. And that's a good example to show, your coworkers, if you're a leader, your kids, if you're a parent.
Yeah, and I think it's real, right? It's something that we all deal with. We're not all perfect. We hit our limits of exhaustion or frustration or fatigue or whatever, and we snap. And so whether it's like, I'm not in a good mindset, or I'm not being creative enough, or I don't have the energy like to be able to take that take that time and not feel selfish, I think is something that it actually contributes. It actually adds value. It doesn't take away. And I think that's something that is a pattern that we all have, that we need to be just more aware of,
Absolutely, of giving ourselves what we need. And I find that when we take time, we actually end up creating time.
Yes.
Because we all have 24 hours in a day. There are some of us that get so much done in a little amount of time, and then some of us that take forever and get nothing done. Why is that? You got to learn how to prioritize what's important to you so that you can best focus your energy. But sometimes we do want to, and again, I'm a doer, I'm an achiever. I want to go. I've got a to-do list a mile long. But I actually, when I learned to relax around that a little bit, I found that I got more done. Because what happens is, when you invest in yourself, you give yourself what you need, you take that time, you free up the mental clutter in your mind, and you're more focused and efficient. And then you get so much more done in less time. When so let's say we need to go for a walk, we need to leave the house and get that cup of coffee, but we're like, no, I got to stay focused on what I'm doing here. This happened to me one day. I remember the day a couple of years ago, because it was before I started to offer coaching. I was trying to focus on my recruiting, and I really had a lot of work to do, and I'm normally very efficient, but I wasn't getting anything done because I was so distracted. Probably for 2 hours, I was trying to make myself focus and getting nothing accomplished. When I finally gave in, went for a walk, cleared my head. I mean, nothing miraculous happened on the walk. I just gave myself that time. And when I got back, my mind was clear, and that's when I got an idea to start offering coaching. So, when giving ourselves time or taking the time to give ourselves what we need allows us to be present, and then that first step shows up. And then that's how the solution can find us, and it can get a lot easier to solve our problems.
So I want to pivot a little bit because based on what you just said too, I think it's, we have ideas, we have this intuition, and we get a concept or we get an idea or we want to do something, but then we got to go do it. We got to go take action. We got to accomplish. We got to go perform. We got to get out of our own way and make things happen. And by the time this episode rolls, it's going to be close to the end of 2020 or early 2020. Well, it's probably by the end of 2022. And so people will start thinking about what do I want to accomplish for 2023? The new year's coming. What do I want to achieve? So tell me how, and you've done a lot in a very short amount of time in your life. Tell me about what's working for you in terms of getting stuff done, in terms of being productive, being organized, how you goal plan. I don't want to say goal planning, but you know what I mean? Like how do you get traction to your ideas?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first is I acknowledge them. So many of us will have these little ideas whispering to us in the back of our minds, and we just ignore it, because when we acknowledge it, when we stop and let ourselves focus on that thing that's trying to talk to us, well, then we have a responsibility, right? We either have to take action and start working toward it, or we can choose to ignore it. And then we have to live with the fact that we're lying to ourselves, that we really do want something bigger or different for ourselves, but we're choosing not to focus on it. And that's a really bad feeling. So I just don't do that. It's not always the right time. Sometimes you get an idea and maybe it's not the right time. Like when I first got the idea that I wanted to start doing motivational speaking, I think that was 7 years ago. But I had a lot of personal inner work to do for myself still at the time, and I knew that it wasn't the right time, but I still listened and acknowledged the voice, and I'm sure I wrote it down somewhere, and then it would keep coming back up, and then one day it got especially loud, and I said, okay, it's time to go. But more about that maybe later. But okay, so 1 is acknowledge your idea. 2 is write down your goals. Writing down your goals is so powerful, just like writing down your to-do list. If you're super stressed, for example, maybe you've got to pack and you're getting ready for a trip. Well, when we have 18 things swimming around our head and we can't focus, we don't get very far. So if you write everything down, 1, you clear your mind, you take everything out of your head and you put it on paper. And I feel like at that point, it's as good as at least halfway done. So now you're present and you're focused. And then 2, you have a responsibility now to work toward it. When you write down your goals, that creates a responsibility to work toward them. And we take care of our responsibilities. So acknowledge your idea, write down your goals, and then get started. So what I mean by this, maybe you know your first step, and then if you know your first step, well, you want to write it down. So maybe you are starting a new business, and one of your goals is to do some outreach to let people know what you're doing. Maybe another goal is to get your website up, another to get your social media platforms ready. Well, you're just, write all of that down, and then you can knock off, one by one. But if you don't know the first step, what you do is you get present. Maybe you're excited, you got your new idea, you acknowledged it. I don't know what to do now. Okay, cool. Or maybe I want to work on it, but I have to go to work. Go to work, go to the store, go for a walk. You're going to get another idea, or like I said, something that you're curious about, and that will be your first step. Your first step will show up only when you're present, not when you're in your head worried about what's step 8 going to look like? What if I can't get to step number 10? No, you just want to let the first step stay present, acknowledge your idea. And get excited. Stay curious and get excited. So that's one of my favorite concepts to coach on, or things to say in general to encourage people, is to stay curious and get excited, because there's no way that we can know what our path getting there is going to look like. We don't know who we're going to see when we walk out our front door. There's no way for us to know the how, which really takes a lot of pressure off. So just get curious about how. Wonder over worry is super powerful. And then, get excited, because how we feel is what we're going to attract more. So if we stay excited rather than afraid of our goals that we're working toward, we're gonna draw those steps in faster.
I love that.
Yeah, and then if you do know your first step, you want to knock it out. You want to choose a time of day that maybe 1 hour or 2 hours where you're going to sit, and I call it hardcore focus on that goal. So that's what I did when I was writing both of my books. I'm a morning person, so between the hours of 4 and 6 a.m. or whatever, I'm writing, and that's it. I'm not looking at emails. I'm not answering my phone. Or, it just depends on your schedule. Other people are maybe night people, so maybe it's when they get home from work. But you got to choose to commit 1 hour. I'm going to sit here and focus on it. That's how you make traction towards your goals. You have to work toward them. Yeah.
I love that. And you're the second person this week that has told me something about, find the time within the day or the week that that's your special zone of genius, they call it, from 10 to 12 or 4 to 6. And I'm leaning into that. And I really encourage all listeners to find your time of the day of this is my perfect zone of genius. I'm going to protect that time and I'm going to take action during that time. Wow, you're 4 to 6. That's early. You're an early riser.
I am very
5 to 7, but that's still good. 4 to 6 is good.
Yeah, it's really wherever you are most energized. So my energy starts to fade late afternoon, definitely in the evening. I'm not a night person, but so then I can just say, okay, well, during this time I can do some marketing, or I can do whatever type of activity that I need to get done that doesn't require as much brain power. So you want to get to know yourself better so that you can, again, give yourself what you need. And then if you're focusing during that time where you're most focused and highest energy, you're going to get that much more done that much faster.
Yep, I love that. Let's talk about your routine. What keeps you healthy? What keeps you sharp?
I love routine. Oh my goodness. I actually don't like to travel because I love my routine. So I love to get up super early. Today I got up at 2:30. I know it's a little bit nuts, but I'm really happy when that happens because I use the time. So I get up, usually around 3 or 4, sometimes 7, it just depends. I will start listening to something on YouTube, a motivational video. I tend to wear out one speaker, all of their videos, and then switch to the next. So right now I'm on a Tony Robbins kick. Believe it or not, I only started listening to him recently, and it's exciting that we share a lot of the same beliefs. So I'm like, yes. Yeah. So, I go in the kitchen, I start my coffee, I clean up a little bit, and then I do so listen to something purposeful, and then I sit and I do breathing and meditation, and I do that usually for about half an hour. Not that long ago, I was doing it for about an hour. Sometimes if I'm really busy, I might do a walking meditation where I'll do, 5 or 15 minutes of breathing, and then if I'm walking to yoga, I'll do a walking meditation on the way to yoga. And that's not walking around with my eyes closed. It's me thinking about and getting excited about my goals and going into gratitude, really thinking about something that I'm super grateful for and really feeling that gratitude. And then I work out, and then I get started on my work. So I make sure I am writing or creating, coaching, of course, but doing something to work toward what's important to me, which is helping others, self-expression and freedom. So working toward a little bit of that each day. And then I like to be active and move around a lot. So later in the day, I'll go for a walk with a friend or go run errands. And then after that, I'm back at home doing some more work and then reading before bed. It's my routine.
I love it. What time are you going to bed to wake up at 2:30?
Well, last night I got in the bed at 8:30 or 9. Yeah. I was really tired. But sometimes I'll go to bed at 11. Usually I'm in bed by 11. Ideally, 9 or 10 is good for me. Yeah.
I feel like I'm better at this now, going back a little bit to the previous conversation. I think that high performers, the people who have the ability to accomplish things fall into almost a trap where we get, I'm speaking from my personal experience, and I'd love you to touch on this. We end up codependent either on the outcome of the work or the people that we're working for or with, and we don't really quite know it. And we do it, and then we realize wow, what? And then it goes back to the question of freedom, which is why I wanted to ask you about this, is that, how can we live a life of freedom with this skill that I don't want to get rid of, or this talent of being productive or being hungry. But also working in an ecosystem or a society where we are dependent on each other. We are dependent on things. I don't mean materialistic things, but we're dependent. Like, you can't sit in a room by yourself and meditate your way to, freedom. I guess you maybe can spiritually, but like, we are living on this plane in some way too, and we are dependent on each other, and we are all chasing or looking for a sense of freedom. And so I don't know if I'm making any sense, but I find that it's really easy for us to fall back into the pattern of this like doing mode, and like, oh, I'm actually not free anymore. And the contrast of that is not just to stop doing, it's to be aware of it. I don't know if that's making any sense.
Yeah, that absolutely makes a lot of sense. And what you just said there, awareness is key. We want to pay attention and listen to how we're feeling. The answer is in our emotions, so if something's bothering us, we got to pay attention to that. So I'm usually feeling super energized. I'm happiest on my days that I'm most productive and getting like a full day's worth of work done and my workout in before noon. I love those days. But I learned recently to how important it is to make sure that I'm not pushing myself when I need to rest. Everybody's different. We got to pay attention to how we're feeling and what we need. So this last weekend, for example, I felt really exhausted. And when I'm exhausted, I don't feel like creating. I'm happiest when I'm creating. I didn't love that I didn't get a lot done this weekend, but I was tired. I needed to rest and just let myself be okay with just resting, and maybe just going for a walk around the neighborhood. I went to my neighbor's house, and a girl I'm becoming close friends with, and we played cards and hung out with her little girl. And sometimes you just need that recharging. And then it's learning to listen to yourself so that you can give yourself what you need. And then you are that much more focused and ready to get after it the next day. My favorite quote is by Carl Jung. He's a Swiss psychologist. He says, "That which we need most will be found where we least want to look." So that means to me that the answers are within. So if something is not sitting quite right with us, we got to look within ourselves, and that will help us figure out, okay, what is it that's really bothering me right now? And then that in turn can show us, okay, this is what I need to give myself. But yeah, I love to go and do, but the more I've learned to relax and let myself not push when I don't feel like being pushed, and rest when I need to rest, I actually get more done.
What are you currently working on? What limiting beliefs or what patterns are you interrupting right now? And what are you trying to accomplish here with that?
You mean for others or within myself?
For you.
I was going to try to shift that one.
Nice try.
Patterns, old limiting beliefs are deep, and it takes a conscious effort to reframe our brain. And so I actually battled anxiety and depression since I was a little girl. The anxiety I got rid of in my early 30s, late 20s. And then the depression I didn't get rid of fully, while I kept getting happier because I would always say, okay, how can I invest in myself today? And then I would always, I was on a constant quest to find ways to feel better, but that didn't fully go away until I'm going to say about 4 years ago. So it took a lot of like deep inner work and digging to identify the root issue. I knew that if I could identify the core problem, that I would then be able to overcome it. And I definitely feel like I have. But one thing I do is, what do I want to say here? I give myself a lot of love. Yes, that is one thing that I'm doing very consciously every single day. Because basically we're all walking around, not to say that we all had horrible parents by any means, but we all likely had some challenging experience during our formative years. And what happens is that belief sticks with us, and it's an untrue belief. And then we develop patterns around it to cope. And then we carry those patterns into our adult life, and they keep us very stuck. Maybe just in one situation or a couple situations. Like for me, once I got on track with my career, I continued to do really well there, but I struggled personally until I was able to identify that cause and really work toward it. So what I do now that I've identified that issue, I give myself what it is I need. I basically tell myself the opposite of the belief that I used to believe. I don't believe it anymore, but I still just give myself a lot of self-love every day, consciously, if that makes sense. I do it during my meditation, and then if something comes up, like I get, triggered or irritated or something like that, I look deeper at it. I think, okay, why is this really bothering me? And I can always trace it back to that. And then, which is so cool, because once you identify what you need, once you identify the problem, then you can solve it, because you can give yourself what you need. So lots of self-love.
I love that. As we wrap up, Amy, tell us where can we find your book? Tell us about where to find you. If people want to connect with you, where can they go?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for asking. So I have 2 books. They are both on Amazon. My recent book is more in line with my coaching concepts, and it's ironic that I wrote on this topic because it was actually my biggest lesson. But my book is called Where's My Mustard? How to Let Go, Attract, and Achieve, A Quest to Self-Empowerment. And it's available on Amazon. And then you can find me on Instagram under Amy Lee Miller Coaching. I've got 2 websites now, but I'm going to be taking them down and combining the 2. So my new website hopefully will be up this weekend, and that's just amyleemiller.com. I'm on YouTube. My channel is Being Amy Lee Miller, and then I'm on LinkedIn too.
And we'll put all the links down below. My final question to you is, Amy, what does it mean to live a rich life?
Happiness. Just to be happy. Yep.
Well, I really appreciate you doing this with me. I love your content. I really suggest the listeners to follow Amy. She's got great little tidbits and little motivational pieces. And I'm excited to watch you in the next couple of years as you go on, you continue your journey and step it up to the next level. So thank you again, Amy, for joining us today.
Thank you so much. You've been really great to talk to. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.